Hello and welcome. You're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review, reviewing the issues we had over the week. And with me, Brahana Taddasa, for this week we have Asrat Addisu, and we'll be talking about the issues we had at hand.
Thank you for having me once again this week as well.
Right.
And this time we are reviewing, as usual, the bilateral ties that Ethiopia has had established so long. And the issue of the Ethiopian National Election Board, in which some officials are officially nominated and approved in the House's meeting. And the third topic that will be covered by us is the contribution of the youth population to the nation building aspect, which is very vital, as we all know. And the other topic will be the terminal enterprise in the city of Addis Ababa.
Right. So there will be other issues as well. And once again, thank you for coming. Let's begin from the Ethiopia has relations with other countries, because we believe that relations should be strengthened. And one of the relations we had over the week is Armenia. There are many things which make us common with Armenia. As we know, Ethiopia is one of the first Christian countries in the world, and Armenia is actually the very first one in the world back in the years for 380, starting from 380. And there are other things about, because I know that you love leather shoes, and Armenia has the oldest leather shoes. So you can go to Armenia and check, and you can bring us some shoes as well. And I really know that I actually overheard that you really love wine. Yes, and this is one of the finest wines you can find will be in Armenia. So they really have this wine. And one of the best things I really feel, and in some places even they have this kind of festival. For example, in India they have Color Day, but in Armenia they have the water festival, which is really one of the best, I really feel, because water cleans everything.
Exactly.
And imagine the whole planet without water.
Wow,
nothing.
Very difficult.
Yes. So Armenians are really known with many things, but we have a lot in common, especially when we talk about the rich history, the culture, and unique traditions. Of course, talking about the Ethiopia and Armenian relations, the Armenian Deputy Foreign Minister highlighted the centuries-old friendship between Armenia and Ethiopia.
Exactly. By the name of Vahan Kostanian, he paid a visit to Ethiopia, and as you said, he mentioned the deep-rooted ties which are historical and that span centuries. Actually, the friendship, the diplomatic relations with Armenia started in the 4th century, as you mentioned. You particularly mentioned that year 380. So if you see, here in Addis Ababa, we have an Armenian church close to the venue where we are now. And in other areas, particularly in Dredwa, I saw houses built by the Armenians in the villages of Armenians who were expatriates and who are, who become one. And blended into the Ethiopian population, and married and gave birth and become one. So I remember in my school days, in my university life, a literature lecturer by the name of Olga Yazbek, a PhD.
I do remember,
an Armenian, born here, and speaks Amharic very well.
Fluently.
Fluently. And nobody could consider her an Armenian, because she speaks the whole lot of Amharic very fluently. And there are so many people whom I know personally, and Armenia and Ethiopia, such visits, give life. They revive. The longest, whatever the relations are there, countries are expected, to shape up and to revive the existing relations, so that life is, given back to the existing relations. So the visit paid by Vahan Kostanian is, very special, and he just appreciated the existing ties, as you mentioned earlier.
Australia, then we have the video, the Armenian Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs speaking about the relations, the rooted relations between Ethiopia and Armenia. And we'll be back.
It is my first trip. It's already the third day that I'm spending in the lovely city of Addis Ababa, and I am very happy and amazed to see the developments and a big construction which is happening in the city. And besides the constructions, first of all, I guess the people, the lovely people of Ethiopia, which are very hospitable, creating the atmosphere to feel home. Nowadays, when we already have the independent state of Armenia, and we already have 32 years of diplomatic relations between Armenia and Ethiopia, I do believe that there is a unique chance to build on the historical friendship of our two nations and of our two peoples, and to strengthen bilateral interstate ties. Some specifics which are common for our two countries. One of them is that both Ethiopia and Armenia are landlocked developing countries. Exactly. And promoting the LLDC agenda is on our list of cooperation. There are different our areas where same LLDC group of countries can work and act together.
Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review, reviewing the issues we had at hand over the weekend. There were different issues, and the other issue we have at hand, from bilateral to multilateral issues, and we're back to Africa. In Africa, as we have been speaking about it for days, Africa needs one strong, not only organization, one strong term to be called as unity. And unity, by the way, is called in different languages. Over the week, one of the things we had was the African Union Commission calling for renewed commitment to economic integration through the African Continental Free Trade Area. Yeah. And there was this high-level business network even called Andernet Remogo in different languages, speaking about the bilateral relations we mentioned before and the multilateral relations we have. Whenever you want to bilateral relations, it's just in between two people and maybe two organizations or two countries. But when we talk about the Africa, we always mention as one, but it's taken as multilateral relations because there are different nations in Africa, there are different countries in Africa. And in one way or the other, actually we've been speaking about it, saying that we have the Agenda 2063, but that is too far for me personally speaking, because after 30, 40 years, and what are we doing at this time? The thing we have to do, especially at this time, is if you don't have the unity and the dream you have to Africa will be nothing. So it's really right that we start with kind of business networking events, and other societal events should be there to begin and to succeed for such kind of unity.
Exactly. So, you know, to realize that vision of 2063, the African Union has already set flagship projects like African Continental Free Trade Area, as we mentioned earlier. So, to make these things, you know, feasible, these events as such should take place earlier, as early as possible. So what the Boto Bayande, the African Union Director of Strategic Planning and Delivery, has mentioned was nothing else but this. This, I mean, just we should strengthen, we should begin, and we should get in touch with our vision. Unless otherwise, we are going to lag behind. So in order not to lag behind and not to be awkward again, we should be active enough, you know, in bringing these things into life again and again. So, you know, as you said, the economic integration through renewed commitment is very vital. And, you know, these things like trade is a particular area in which countries, particularly African countries, can become one mainly through trade. It's a major area that integrates a given continent. There are, as you said, there are 54, 55 nations inside the continent, and these continental nations could be, you know, blended and could become one and solidified in such a solidarity way through trade and agriculture. And Botswana, being a country with Ethiopia, can be engaged in areas as such: agriculture, leather, textiles, jewelry, coffee, so on and so forth. Many areas are mentioned during the event, and that's what the Boro Bayandi of the African Union has mentioned. And to transform Africa and to bring the mobility and the resilience of Africa into reality, such flagships and getting engaged in such flagships is very vital.
That's really right. And one of the things that I really loved from Tebalolo Bongo, that's from the Botswanan ambassador to Ethiopia, saying that there should be stress. We have to focus on diplomacy, but the diplomacy itself must now focus on unlocking economic opportunities. Of course, we have different kind of diplomacy. We have even whether it's country-wise, continental-wise, or even in global way. But the diplomacy we know was only focusing on the politics. But Tibalolo said that we have to focus on now on economic opportunity. And if we have the economic opportunity for all, that is what we call free trade. Of course, there's no such a thing saying that we have free trade, because trading is something exchanging. So when you need something for exchange, it means that you're taking something, especially when we come to business. So Africa will have different resources. Of course, it has many resources, but unlocking the economic opportunities we have at hand in Africa will be one of the greatest opportunities we have. So we have to remember in here.
Speaking of the economic opportunities, the ambassador, he said, Botswana has strengths in stability, low corruption, and the diversification. And Ethiopia, and the other way around, has rapid industrial growth as a foundation for mutual prosperity, to make something more positive out of the existing ties. The way that Tebelolo Oboang, ambassador of Botswana to Ethiopia, has mentioned is really important, I think.
And I really feel that this is the right time to talk about the Tebelolo speech. And here is what he had to say. Oh, okay, I'll be back. Speaking about the African Union and the ambassador mentioning the free trade and diplomacy. And here is Tebelolo, the ambassador, and we'll be back after that.
We believe that by collaborating with Ethiopia, a country with incredible infrastructure and a fast-growing industrial base, together under the African Continental Free Trade Area, we are better positioned to collaborate and grow. Let today be the start of conversations, not just between individual businesses, but as a lasting partnership. Let the conversations not end here, but continue in the future to initiate partnerships, forge networks, and plant the seeds of enterprise.
The benefits are tangible. SATAM could increase intra-Africa air traffic by over 50% and reduce average airfares by more than a quarter. Savings that could directly go into other investments, into the pockets of consumers, and be diversified. The synergy between AFCFTA and SATAM is incredible. AFCFTA open markets, SATAM connects them. Together they anchor a new era of economic mobility.
We're back, dear viewers, and this is Addis Media Network, and we have this weekly program. It's called Weekly Review, reviewing different issues we have over the week. And the next will take us to Russia. And
the Russian language day.
The Russian language, and I tried. For some time, I was trying to speak in Russian. Of course, the Ruski.
Oh,
so it's somehow.
What does that mean?
It means my name is.
I see.
And speaking about the Russian, and you were one of the participants with the Russia language cultural contribution. I was there before some years, for consecutive years, and it was quite enjoyable, to be honest. Seeing different people and speaking and respecting the language they have, and respecting other countries' language as well. And with the mention of many poets, since we love literature as well.
As you said, luckily I was attending the Russian Language Day, which was celebrated in connection to the birthday of the great Alexander Pushkin, who has a blood tie with Ethiopia, even ambassador of the Russian Federation to Ethiopia, His Excellency Evgeny Turkin mentioned. Me being there to report the event, I was totally immersed on the ongoing event and on the essence of the event. So the event was, celebrated in such a way it captivates the attendees. Everyone was, captivated, including me. I was even astonished to see many Ethiopians, young Ethiopians actually.
Scholarships.
Who were, presenting poetry and reciting poetry, Russian poetry. And that of they were mentioning works of Leo Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, and mainly repeated poetries of Alexander Pushkin were presented. And the great Ayalneh Mulatu was there. The African officials, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa officials, has repeatedly mentioned that the Russian language has a lot to do with humanity because of its depth and its width. So the language by itself expresses humanity. It touches the cornerstones of the human life. So that was, exercised by Alexander Pushkin, who actually lived for a brief period of time on the planet. Diplomatic ties with Russia, which dates back, I think, centuries. So the Russian language celebration has nothing to do only with the Russian language, but the diplomatic ties are still mentionable, and His Excellency the Ambassador mentioned this aspect. So the cultural exchange and the other aspects, always countries are focusing for the exchange of culture, intercultural communication. Ambassador, and he told me that tens of thousands of Ethiopians attended their education in the aspect of in the field of journalism and other fields. In the military, too many. But in the civilian, he mentioned lots, tens of thousands of people, and people are still attending. And Russia is dedicated, to maintain the existing ties with Ethiopia in that particular day. That's the information I have.
It's really nice that Russia is expanding its educational outreach in Africa. And one of the things that interests me is journalism. So, including journalism, it's not only journalism, there's also religion and other fields. These are called tailored programs, especially for African students.
Exactly.
And if anybody's interested, they can apply right there. And it's really wonderful that we just take a listen and let's have a glimpse of what it looks like the program was, and here is the video.
It is adjusted to the birthday of the great Russian poet and writer Alexander Pushkin, who is called not only the founder of the modern Russian language and literature, but he was also nicknamed as the son of Russian literature. And what is making this holiday especially peculiar here in Addis is that, as you may remember, one of the Pushkin's ancestors was born in Ethiopia. So this is making us really relatives. Russian language is playing a great significant role in the world cultural universe. Not only greatest literature, many scientific works, philosophical works were also delivered in Russian. And actually, Russian is operating or may be considered as a bridge between many peoples. We are happy that many Ethiopians are interested in Russian, are studying Russian.
The Russian language, a mirror of the soul and history. The Russian language is not merely a means of communication. It is the living memory of a people, bearing witness to their struggles, hopes, joys, and sorrows. Over the centuries, it has carried the voices of countless writers and thinkers whose works resonate far beyond the borders of the Russian Federation, touching the whole world within their depth and humanity.
Today we observe Russian Language Day at the United Nations, which is celebrated on 6 June, the birthday of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, who is considered to be by many to be a greatest Russian poet, as well as founder of modern Russian literature. Taking this opportunity, I would like to express my appreciation to ECA Secretariat, Embassy of Russian Federation in Addis Ababa, my dear colleague, Ambassador Evgeny Terekhin, other embassies and the stakeholders, including UNESCO, Liaison Office, for organizing and supporting this meaningful event.
Dear viewers, you're watching our weekly review, and that is from Addis Media Network. I am Burhan Tardasa, with me, Asrat Ardisu, and we've been discussing, of course, issues. And the next thing we have to mention is one of the biggest issues we have is the House approval, and that is for electoral board. And over the week, we had the deputy, and of course, their other members were approved to lead, and the Ethiopian House of People's Representatives approved the appointment of the deputy chairperson and several management boards, members of the Ethiopian National Electoral Board. And we've been following it, including the chief whip minister, that's Tasfai Beljige, and the members of the House spoke about the approval. And finally, we saw the results as well. So we're expecting the electoral board to lead us to a peaceful and democratic and fair election.
Free and fair
election.
As Ethiopia always stands for.
Sure. And that's going to be in 2026.
2026,
nice.
The national election, or the general election, as some countries say, is a pending event which Ethiopia anticipates to take on. So the government, the current government, the incumbent government believes, as you said, in free and a democratic, fair election in which the voters decide who shall seize the federal power to lead and to be in charge of leading the nation for the next 5 years. So this is a major event. So being a major event, the people who should be acting in this major event shall have trust, full trust. And the House of People's Representatives is destined to deal with such issues, because you may know that the Ethiopian National Election Board is directly responsible to the House of People's Representatives of the federal government. And due to that reason, the people you mentioned earlier was given votes, and they were their assignment was approved by the majority vote, in which I think 2 abstentions were observed.
There were only 2,
2 abstentions were observed, and in that incident, the chief whip minister, Dr. Tasfai Beljige, has had a kind of remark, and you can say.
Yeah, that was the recommendation, by the way. The letter was written by the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and Tasfai Beljige presented the appointees, that is Tasfai Noai, as the new vice chairperson of the NEBA, alongside Taklit Imersel and Nassim Ali. And they became, of course, board members. And here is what they had to say.
ውጤታማ አመራር እንደሚሰጡ የታመነባቸው እጩ የቦርዱ ምክትል ሰብሳቢና አባላት ሹመት
to ensure that the elections and public decisions to be held are conducted in a transparent, fair, peaceful and trustworthy manner, our esteemed Prime Minister has presented to the House of People's Representatives the nomination of trusted candidates for Deputy Chairperson and members of the board, so that they may provide effective leadership. The nominated candidates are not members of any political party, possess extensive professional experience and integrity, have been confirmed to be competent for the national responsibilities entrusted to them, and represent diversity including gender and other backgrounds.
ጾታን ጨምሮ የተለያዩ ብዝሃነቶችን የሚያሟሉ ናቸው።
Dear viewers, we're back and watching the House People's Representative and the Proval, and Asrat, you already saw the Proval, and Tasfai Nawai is chosen, appointed as Vice Chairperson, and Takliti Mersul and Nassim Ali are they are both appointed as board members of the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia, and with majority, as you said, with 2 abstentions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, whenever elections are there, some parties are always there just to be like a dissident, to look for some negative aspects. You know, what is better for countries like Ethiopia is just to focus on the normal procession of the incumbent government's direction. So the incumbent government, being based on the legal institutes, is, you know, trying and has been trying. I remember, and you remember as well, during the last election, the government has tried to make things as obvious as possible, and it brought down to earth that every citizen, each and individual citizen of the nation shall be engaged in the election.
We really appreciate that the election becomes peaceful, and so we also want it to be fair. So because everyone is watching, the whole world will be watching, as Ethiopia is the land of origin, and we expect many things to happen, and those things should happen in a very positive way. One of the things we're expecting from the election is, of course, the youth contribution in nation building, and nation, of course, will be built in different ways by different people, and one of the things we expect will be from the youth, and the youth contribution is really valuable, to be honest. And one of the things spoken, of course, talked over the week was Mayor Addis Ababa, and saying that the young people in the country play a significant role shaping the nation's future.
Exactly.
And she also said that a city held, of course, there was a discussion with the youth representatives to understand the role of youth in achieving inclusive prosperity.
Yeah. So, as it has been repeatedly said, the Ethiopian prosperity was destined to include every sector of the society. And the youth are, you know, given priority to act in it as a major source of power, the momentum, so that they should not be left behind. The prosperity of the nation shall never be a reality without the active participation of the youth population of the nation. So according to the census, the youth has a big number. So the youth, physically, mentally, psychologically, in whatever aspect, are active enough and active members of the society, and they are there to decide the fate of the destiny of the Ethiopia, the nation of Ethiopia. So the message delivered by Her Excellency the Mayor Addis Ababa is really appreciated, I think, in my consideration, so that the youth has a role to take part in the election. The youth has a role to take part in the manufacturing aspect, in the production of anything, in education, in social affairs. Wherever you go, the youth have all the flexibility, the maneuverability, everything, and they are really needed. The government, the incumbent government of the Syria administration of Addis Ababa, and the federal government at large are looking for the active participation of the youth, the Ethiopian youth.
Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review, and this is the right time to go check what the mayor of Addis Ababa City Administration, Mayor Addis Ababa, said, especially talking about the youth and saying that the youth are not just only the hope, but the engine of course, the progress. And we'll be back watching that.
ወጣቶች የሀገር ተስፋዎች እምነት የሚጣልባችሁ የሀገር ጉልበት
Youth are the hope, strength and pride of the nation. It is essential for young people to have a deep and informed understanding of their country's affairs, the ability to discern what truly benefits the nation and its people, and what does not, is a vital skill in the pursuit of genuine nation building. Your active involvement in the development efforts of the city is commendable. As the guardians of peace and order, your role as a shield of security is invaluable. Your dedication not only fosters stability but also paves the way for progress and prosperity in the community.
በ9 ወር ውስጥ አዲስ አበባ ውስጥ 310,000
In just 9 months, more than 300,000 job opportunities have been created, with over 10,000 new positions added during this period. Notably, the majority of these jobs have been taken up by young people, reflecting the government's strong commitment to youth empowerment, contrary to claims that employment initiatives have stalled. Employment efforts are very much ongoing. In fact, over 2.9 billion in loans have been provided to youth who have organized themselves into productive employment structures. Beyond economic empowerment, youth participation in politics has also seen a significant rise.
የሚቀጥለው በጀት ዓመት ርብርባችን
Housing is one of the key demands raised by the public, especially by the youth. The city administration is working extensively to address this pressing issue and to provide sustainable solutions. However, it is important to acknowledge that the housing challenge cannot be resolved overnight. Housing will be a central focus of the city administration in the upcoming fiscal year.
Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review. Over the week, we had different issues, and one of the issues we had at hand, of course, was the terminal enterprise in Addis Ababa, and this was really appreciated by many, including foreigners speaking about the terminal enterprises, and sources remarked that the new organization of terminal enterprise professionals recently implemented by Addis Ababa City Administration will solve problems that have existed in the transport sector for centuries, benefiting the community fairly. And we have, of course, witnessed personally, because we use the transport system itself. When we go from one place to another, you yourself, you use public transportation. Yeah. We also use the public transportation. There are many processes and different ways you use. And there were some inconveniences, to be honest, and there were really obviously seen that some were truly unfair, and it was really leading them to corruption. Some were really rich enough because they were really corrupt in one way or the other way. But at this time, there is this terminal enterprise having the regular sessions, regular programs even for those who should lead the terminal itself. So we're witnessing that there's some transport seekers and drivers also sharing that the bottlenecks, the problems have so far been facing.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, this has been so long an aspect in which the youth were, you know, some kind of commotion, some kind of disagreement and conflicts which sometimes go beyond you know, boundaries of, you know, they started to, sometimes they harm themselves physically because of the benefit that they have been gaining from this taxi and transport terminals, rather.
Exaggerated fees.
Exaggerated. So, you know, in one aspect, it appears originally as a job opportunity, but in the other aspect, whenever there are some, you know, public holidays, or when the time is, you know, when the people looking for transport are running short of time, the taxi conductors and those of the people working there as terminal bosses are, you know, deciding the fare of the taxi transportation or the buses or the public transportation in general. So people, including you and me, having no choice of, you know, commuting, we are, you know, obliged to use those means of commuting. So we commute using buses and the taxis, and we have been exposed to these people and to their wrongdoings. And the government has planned, to downgrade, to downsize, to diminish this extended problem, the terminals problem and the terminals enterprise professionals, kind of association, or let's say an enterprise, which is hoped to bring down the problem of unwanted conflicts and commotions.
I've been forced to drop out of the taxi forcibly by both the driver and the conductor due to legal questions regarding their services. The terminal professionals often cooperate with drivers. Services have been delivered only by the interest of drivers, not the public. If the public doesn't agree with whatsoever interests of drivers, it's likely that the public keeps a lineup for hours without getting service. As far as I have witnessed, it's now better. The insults, chaotic situations, and inconveniences have now been tackled. The situation is now normal. We are being served based on our turn. The final one will take us, of course, to foreigners speaking about Addis Ababa, saying that the development, especially the corridor development, is really quite amazing. And the visitors, actually some of the visitors we have are from Kenya, saying that the development in Addis Ababa is really quite amazing. It's really wowing, and other countries should be following such development.
Exactly. Yeah. I heard some people from Uganda that they were astonished to see the venues in Addis Ababa being very wide, and where there are pedestrian walks, sidewalks for pedestrians, and the vehicles space very wide, and accompanied by green spaces. Grasses are there, and still there are these small parks on the side roads. So the African people from African nations and amazingly people from Europe are, getting astonished of the development that the city of Addis Ababa is exercising. And truly speaking, the other major cities of Ethiopia as a nation are, exercising this corridor development. And this is an exercise, this is a practice expected to be emulated not only within the nation but in other countries of Africa and beyond.
It's true, and some even have been saying, including the ambassadors. So as such, there are many different people talking about the corridor development, and here is the part we can watch visitors speaking about the corridor development and the development in general, the progress we have in the country-wise, and we'll be back.
I was actually shocked when I came to Addis. I didn't think it's so grown. It's like the development here are really, they are a challenge to Nairobi because Addis is growing at a very fast rate, and I like the roads and also the trees along the roads. I feel nice. The people here are so nice. They are very kind and nice, honestly, and also it's nice. It's a cool place. I thought it will be somehow hot, but the temperatures here are cool, so I wouldn't mind staying even here longer.
My observation when in town is a lot of construction, a lot of building, and a lot of beautification of the city. I've seen a lot of plantation and also tall buildings coming up and construction of the roads. The people are humble and they are very friendly. And when I come to Addis, I feel it's still part of home. I can't distinguish between Kenya and Addis when I'm in here, apart from the food. That is where the difference is.
What I will be willing to explore is, I've seen on many social media pages, is your culture, and also the places like the Unity Park. I will want to explore that.
This one I bought it in Adama some few years ago. And when I come to Ethiopia, I like putting it, I like to blend with the culture. Impressive about Ethiopia is the welcoming and friendliness of the people, and also the weather in Addis. The weather is more of Nairobi.
I do like the hospitality from the Ethiopian people. They are very familiar, they are very friendly people. And like I said, as a Latin American, I can empathize very much into that. The city, it's a very big city. I think it's a city that is in a very rapid development. It's a city that wants to grow, that wishes to grow, and the people themselves wish to grow. That is my first impression from Addis Ababa and Ethiopia. The history of the Ethiopian country is what makes me more impressed. One of the only country to not have been conquered, a country that is originally almost 3,000 years old, a country that has kept its roots, that is a country that has been able to surpass the conquering or dominance from other countries. It was able to establish itself and its position as an independent country in Africa, the only independent country in Africa, in spite of all of the territories around it being conquered or being influenced by others. I believe Ethiopia is an influential country, not an influenced country. And that is what I find most interesting about Ethiopia.
Over the week, of course, there were many issues, including the bilateral ties we had at hand, including the Botswana, Ethiopia, and other African countries. And we also saw Armenia and Ethiopia rooted ties. We of course talked about the House approving electoral board. We also mentioned what the youth should contribute to nation building. And we finally went to terminal enterprise in Addis Ababa, and foreigners speaking about Addis Ababa as well. Yeah. And I really appreciate that he came and discussed this and other issues as well. Asrat, I really appreciate he came and discussed the different issues, and really, hopefully, I'll see you some other time. I really appreciate that he came and discussed different issues. And dear viewers, yes, that does it for today. I will have you some other time. And I am Burhan Sadosa, the host and producer of Weekly Review. Bye for now.